I graduated from college today, and one of the best decisions I made was giving up my 4.0 GPA. For 6 years throughout high school and the first half of college, I had straight A's, but then one semester in the middle of my sophomore year, I decided to run an experiment. What would happen if I made grades and classes my absolute last priority? Since then, I've never made it my goal to have a 4.0 again. Alright, but first, how did I get here? I chased semester upon semester of academic perfection just because I thought that it was what I was supposed to do to succeed in school. But the more I continued to get perfect grades, the more I had this sense that something was missing. I ended every semester of college completely burnt out, like not being able to wait for the summer to come. And worst of all, I didn't even feel like I was growing in the direction I wanted or becoming more like the person I wanted to be after the school system. Ever since I was 10 years old, it's been my dream to work in the YouTube industry, either as a creator or on the business side. And yet in college, I was working a part-time video editing job on campus where I would clock in just to make my $16 an hour and then clock out. I was so bored the whole time and I wasn't really learning any skills. Every time my boss wasn't looking, I was literally just researching startups in the YouTube space. And one day I came across this startup called Creator Now, which was a YouTube education startup, and it was founded by a couple of people who literally had my dream careers as YouTube managers. And so one morning I drank too much coffee and I started getting excited about how cool it would be to learn from people who are exactly where I want to be 10 years from now. And I decided to film a video, send a random cold email just asking them for an internship. A couple days later, I got a reply inviting me for a Zoom interview. Somehow I convinced them to hire me for an internship and then also pay me more than I was making at my video editing job. So I emailed my editing boss immediately and was like, sorry, I'm not coming back next semester. During my first day on the internship, I got to have a one-on-one call with the CEO, Zach. At first he asked me, what are the chances that I'll drop out of college? I said 20%, now it's 0% because I have my degree and I'm glad I do. And then he gave me one piece of advice. He said, in that case, don't let school get in the way of your education. The most valuable lessons that he learned in college were not from classes, but from the businesses he started and the experiences that he had outside. So I got off that call and I was like, yes, Zach just gave me permission to never study for an exam ever again. No, just kidding. But it got my mind reeling because I thought about how many hundreds of hours I'd spent perfecting my grades just to realize that, wait, maybe that wasn't the most educational use of my time. At first I was really scared because on the one hand, my parents and my friends and everyone around me seemed implicitly to think that a 4.0 was this unquestionable ideal. But then here was Zach, who was exactly where I wanted to be 10 years into the future. And if he's giving me advice, like, who am I not to take it? I realized that college is the easiest time to take risks in my life. This one semester internship at Creator Now would benefit me personally and professionally more than any single semester of college could give me with like network and experiences. And so I was like, okay, let me take a risk. Let me just experiment. I want to share with you 3 things I learned during the semester of academic imperfection, as well as my advice for any current college students to balance both the benefits of college with also what can benefit you. Self-ad break. Besides giving up my 4.0, another one of the best decisions I made during college was turning down a 6-figure job offer. If you want to read about that, go to jamienic.substack.com. This is actually a chapter from the college guidebook that I spent hundreds of hours senior year writing. So please enter your email there if you'd like updates for when the book publishes. My parents were so confused when I told them about this experiment. They're like, wait, we're paying tuition for you not to care about classes. Don't let school get in the way of your education. I set myself 2 experiment rules. The first one was that I would still turn in every assignment, but the second one was that I would only study to the point of diminishing marginal returns. Diminishing marginal returns is a concept from economics, which means my time spent studying after a certain point starts to get less and less beneficial for me. For example, in the past, I used to spend 12 hours studying for an exam to get, say, a 95% on it. Whereas I realized I could spend 6 hours studying and still get a 90%, say. Thank you, grade inflation, WashU. Even though, yes, I would have a lower GPA, I still felt like studying for half the time and just only getting a few points lower was a much better use of my time than trying to aim for perfection like I did before. Back when I had a 4.0, I took an accounting class and I would spend 5 to 10 hours a week taking notes on the textbook to make sure that I understood every single concept perfectly, even though the professor would lecture on basically the exact same material in class. Big waste of time in my opinion, but since I thought that academics were like the #1 priority, I thought that all time spent on them was beneficial. But when I started to define education more broadly, I realized that also going to therapy or doing freelance video projects with the extra time I saved by not studying was more educational than accounting definitions. The second lesson I learned is called Goodhart's law, which means that when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to become a good measure. The way this applies to GPA is that a lot of times aiming for an A actually made me learn less. When I was just aiming to get 100% on an exam, I would literally just study for the exam, and so I would look at the practice exams and see what problems the professor had posted and just study for those, or now say students using AI to complete assignments for them. But because I was so hyper focused on getting a 100% no matter how I got there, I wasn't actually learning. I was just kind of like doing assignments to complete them. And I just like to remind myself that like it sounds so obvious, but the value of college is to learn. Don't let school get in the way of your education. I also see a couple Reddit posts of like, what are some of the easiest classes to take at WashU to get an A? My favorite college classes have also been some of my lowest grades because they genuinely push me, like econometrics, introduction to marketing, where it's like all business school like case studies. I think that education and skills are what employers hire you for, and also like the value I'll actually keep after college and the value I'm paying for. The third lesson I learned was about intellectual validation, and I really learned this lesson when I checked my grades at the end of the semester. I was genuinely terrified to check my grades at the end of the semester because I had no clue what to expect. Like I was basically completely checked out of college, just turning in my assignments, but then spending all of my free time running or going to therapy or working at Creator Now or doing freelance video editing projects. When I checked my grades and I received a B in every single major class I had, I felt this huge sinking weight in my throat of, wow, I'm not perfect anymore. I realized in that moment how much I had used GPA as a crutch to like prove I was intelligent. Of a number is so black and white that if it's perfect, I could feel secure in myself. But now that the number had lowered so much from what I was used to, I was still the same person, but I had to find a new way to measure my growth and kind of like base my self-esteem on. And that measure just became internal growth and learning. Because by the end of this semester, I did not feel burnt out at all. Like when summer came, I literally did not feel any different because I wanted to continue working on Creator Now. And they invited me to come back for 2 more semesters, so I worked for them for a year and a half. And I honestly had this feeling of joy apart from numbers that for the first time I was like, I actually didn't know life could feel this way, or I didn't know that growth could be measured apart just from like a numeric scale, which sounds kind of sad, but coming from a perfectionist mindset, it can be very hard to break out of. I remember before deciding to embark on my experiment, I was thinking, wait, like if I do this, like I'll never graduate with Latin honors, and like Latin honors will be a line on my resume forever, so I should optimize for that. But then I zoomed out and I was like, wait, like if I'm on my deathbed and I'm thinking back about my college experience, having Latin honors is not going to be in my mind at all, or if it is, then honestly that's sad and that's kind of not a life that I want to live anyway or value on. But I would think about so much more just about the adventures and experiences I had during college and the free time I had from not having honors. And even though at graduation I didn't have the Dean's Award, I did still end up getting an award. So it's kind of funny how things turned out. I'm grateful. When I checked my grade at the end of my previous semesters where I had a 4.0 though, instead of a sinking feeling in my throat, instead I had this hollow feeling in my chest. So even when I was like perfect, I still felt bad because I felt like I was giving up parts of myself to get a 4.0, whereas when I completely dismissed parts of my grade, I was like fully embracing what I wanted to do, fully embracing myself, but it just looked imperfect. And I think either ends of this spectrum are not ideal. For the rest of college, I was able to kind of orient myself in the middle, where I realized college has some very real benefits of getting to learn from classmates, from top professors in their fields, and obviously access to certain traditional career paths. Whereas outside of class, I had the chance to learn from people off campus and get experiences in my industry and create art and express myself. This would really be the advice that I have for current college students watching this, is to create a strategy of what you want to get out of college and what college can give you. For example, as a business student, there's really only a few things I need out of college, which is like a decent GPA, a couple of corporate internships, and a couple of campus leadership positions. That's all that can fit on my resume, and that's honestly all that's gonna get me the traditional job I want after college. And once I have that, basically all my time can be exploring my passions and stuff outside of college. After my experimenting semester, I quit like almost every club I was in except for the clubs that I actually love doing. I think that following college by the book, or following the script of college, so to say, can definitely be a defeatist mindset, and I think there's definitely a way to balance college with also what you want to get out of it. So I hope this video made sense. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you have questions, topics you want me to talk about, or future video ideas.